All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Shem, Yahweh, Shabbat, Shem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and others of Great Millstone. And Shalom to all the Akimat, the preaching the word of sincerity and the truth. And wanted to just do a lesson on the Greek statues and Hellenization of the Israelites. Because when you go into these black Greek statues, when Israelites was all throughout Greece being conformed to Greek culture during the time of the Seleucid Empire, that's when Jake fully became Greeks and Hellenized. All right, you have right here a black woman to the right, and you have a black man to the left, and they're in Greece, you see them with the Greek regalia on the left, the male actually dressed like a Greek, and when you scroll down, you see that without a shadow of a doubt that these are Negroes, with the wide noses, defined features, defined lip features, things of that nature. It's a lot of definition, and of course the statues are have a dark bronze color, because those were Israelites all throughout Greece. All right, and a lot of those Greek gods, those Greek philosophers, a lot of those were actually Israelites. All right, because when Greece took us down as a nation, we fell hard. We started to be absorbed in the Greco-Roman culture. It tells you that in the book of Maccabees how we started to follow Bacchanalia, follow the full culture that we got enrolled in the Olympics, the gymnasiums, and that's what turned us into full Greeks during the time of the Maccabees. And so when you go to the New Testament, you see Yahushua and the disciples going to gather the ones that were scattered in the different countries, and those were nothing more but Israelites, Negroes from the southern kingdom, mainly Negroes, so-called Haitians and Jamaicans, all throughout the different lands. Whether it was Cappadocia, you had Rome, you had the different churches that Paul went through his missionaries. Those were all Israelites. All right, and what they was trying to do was they was trying to keep Jake from this. This is the future of Jake. This is still modern. This is a modernized style of Jake being Greek, joining these fraternities, joining these sororities, throwing up the Greek symbols, wearing the Greek alphabet, the Kappa, Gamma, whatever fraternity or sorority that they're affiliated with. That's what the disciples back in the day were rebuking Jake and getting on Jake over. And you can't tell these Negroes and these sororities and fraternities nothing, man. You can't tell them that they're actually Israelites, all right, from their respective tribes, whether the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and it's a lot of Northern Kingdom that said these sororities too. So it's a little bit more pictures, and that's really the point of it, and that's where you actually can see, the statue, and you see the modern, you see Jake, and you got a lot of statues that actually have Jake butt ass naked in Greece, whether in the style of wrestling, or they're actually doing things that are comprehensive of Greek culture, so to speak. It's very compatible to them actually being Greeks. All right, and that's why it's not really much so-called Negro images where they have the garments and things of that nature, because when they was being heavily influenced by Hellenization, what was going on was the ancient busts, the ancient relics and icons that we had in the homeland, in the motherland, was being destroyed and burnt by the kings during that time. All right, and we were being brainwashed, and we were being culturally influenced, and that's where you had our forefathers, the Maccabees, which even this is a whitewashed image of the Maccabees. The Maccabees never looked like this. The Maccabees were so-called so-called Levites, or excuse me, so-called Haitians, which would be from the tribe of Levi, that was resisting the Hellenistic or Greek style influence of life. All right, and this is under the Maccabean revolt. I'm just going to read this little paragraph. It says the Maccabean revolt was a Jewish rebellion lasting from 167 to 160 BCE, led by the Maccabees against the Seleucid Empire and the Hellenistic influence on Jewish life. Right, and that's exactly what's happened. So when you had Judas Maccabee, you had their forefather Matthias, you had Simon, Jonathan, so on and so forth. That house of men represented the Judean lineage during that time span. All right, and during that time, they were resisting the oppression of the people. You know, and majority of the people conformed to the ways. Majority of the people willingly accept the Greek style of life, and it wasn't just to stop keeping high holy days, stop keeping the Sabbaths, to stop wearing your regalia and your culture. It was mandatory to follow the Greek gods. It was mandatory to if you were talented, if you had a level of skill, then you were required to enroll in the whether the Olympics, things of that nature. And you had also Jakes that that would fight in the Greek wars. They were hoplites. So when they were so heavily involved in the Greek style of life, they fully became Greek. All right, they say after a couple of generations, basically the nation actually forgets. So you had the first tier of generations, which were the Maccabees, and they put up a strong resistance. But at the end of the day, majority of our people, they bottomed out. They basically bowed out to the Greeks under the time of Seleucid, in which the main individual in the time of the Seleucids was Antiochus Epiphanes, and the rest of the Antiochus line and the Seleucid line, they heavily influenced the Israelites out there in Greece. And you even had Israelites in Egypt that was being influenced by the Egyptian culture during the time of the Ptolemaic dynasty. So it was a push of culture. It was a push against their nationality. And you had later on, that's why you had the disciples and the apostles doing such a heavy work to gather dispersed all throughout Asia Minor. And I'm going to read that. This is Hellenistic Judaism. Hellenistic Judaism was a form of Judaism in classic antiquity that combined Jewish religious tradition with elements of Greek culture. Until the fall of the Western Roman Empire and the early Muslim conquest of the East Mediterranean, the main centers of Hellenistic Judaism were Alexandria, Egypt, and Antioch, known in southern Turkey. And what's funny about these two areas, those were main areas that Israelites dwelled. All right, Alexandria, Egypt. It was a lot of Israelites in Egypt. You even read about Yahushua fleeing to Egypt, and you read about Antioch all throughout the scriptures also. Because Antioch, when you click it, that name Syrian Antioch was named by Antiochus. It goes into Seleucus Nicanor the first, but later on, of course, Antioch is Antiochus. But I'm going to read this part. Antioch was called the cradle of Christianity as a result of its longevity and the pivotal role that played in the emergence of both Hellenistic Judaism and Christianity. Right, so when you read all throughout the Jews going to Antioch and different parts of that nature, those was Jakes, man. Those was Jakes that Paul was going to actually gather, in those different areas, because it was a large amount of Israelites that dwelled in those areas. They wasn't going to the whites in that land. They wasn't going to the Moabites, that actually settled in that land. They were going to straight up and down Israelites. And you have scholars that can truly admit that. And you have under this category, there's neither Jew nor Greek. And I'm really not going to go into details with this, but really the main point I wanted to highlight, matter of fact, I read this. It says, Paul himself, a relatively liberal Hellenist convert to Christianity, was later threatened by more religious conservative Jewish Hellenes as seen in the New Testament. Acts 9 verse 29, and he spoke boldly in the name of the Lord, Yahushua, and disputed against the Hellenists, but they attempted to kill him. And who was those Hellenists? Those were Israelites. These subtle progressive socio-cultural shifts and tensions are somehow summarized succinctly in chapter 3 of the epistles of Paul to the Galatians. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free man, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Yahushua. And if you be Yahushua's, then you are Abraham's seeds and heirs according to the promise. Right. So that was the whole thing during the time of Acts, where you had even dissension amongst the Jews and the Greeks at the tables. Those were Israelite. They were all Israelites that was falling under the Hellenization, and they were being brought back, but it was still schisms within the nation. You had Israelites that felt like the Greeks, which were Israelites during that time, Israelites that followed Greek nationality, they felt like those Greeks weren't, they didn't have the respective qualifications to worship the Most High. You know, they fell from generations before. You know, they started to follow the gods in that time, so they was like, you know, to hell with them. You know, but that's why you had Yahushua that died for the Jews as well as the Greeks. And it never speaks heavily about Romans. And even when you go into the book of Romans, it speaks about the saints that are at Rome. All right. So who are the saints? The word saint goes into sanctus, which means truth. That's the Israelites. All right. And I'm going to hit some main points in Acts with the Greeks. Acts 14:1. And it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together in the synagogue of the Jews, and so spake that a great multitude of both of the Jews and also of the Greeks believed. And who were those Greeks? Hellen, the Israelites. All right. Acts 16:1. Then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek. And how was Timotheus' father was a Greek? Because his father followed the Greek style of life, but his mother still embraced the fact that she was a Jew. All right. Just like today, you may have certain women that attach themselves to the law, the Mosaic law. They keep the Sabbath. They're Torah appliant. You know, they apply heavily with the Torah, but they might be in a relationship with a man that's in a fraternity. That was the ex frat. You know, he still keeps and attaches himself to his his fraternity. He may go out with the boys on the weekend. They still have that Greek talk. They still he's still branded as a Greek. So he, to be honest, he's a full-fledged Greek. And that's the same thing that was going on back then, but it was more culturally influenced because they lived around Greece. They would go to Greece for the parties, the parades, the festivities. It was they would go as far as even wearing the Greek clothing. They believed that they were full-scale Greeks. So when you go later on in the New Testament, where it tells you in Romans, which I'll read that. Matter of fact, I'll read Romans 1:16. For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Yahushua, for it is the power of the Most High unto salvation, to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. So the Greeks are the Israelites. All right. And I just went through the whole history before. So now it puts all these scriptures in the proper perspective. All right. Romans 10:12. For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. And it's plenty of scriptures that go into the Greeks. So when you read later on, of course, you'll see without a shadow of a doubt that these Greeks were Israelites. All right. And going throughout the Maccabees, you'll see how the Greeks pushed against the Israelites to actually turn them into Greeks. So this is the time to really awake to our nationality and fight and stand on the battlefield for our true culture, which is us being Israelites from the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, so on and so forth. We are the Israelites, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. The history proves without a shadow of a doubt, the scriptures